We're back.
Yay, it's the Wizards of the Couch. We're back for Last Call.
Last Call.
And we have been sitting around for the last 90 minutes or so talking monster design, led that whole show off with Wolfgang Bauer talking about monster design. In the run-up, well, actually, it's happening already, but he's in the middle of his Kickstarter for Tome of Beasts 2. So you can check that out over on Kickstarter. Just search for Kobold Press or Tome of Beasts 2, and you can get in on that Kickstarter. It's 400 brand new monsters. Just read about it there. It's super killer. You'll dig it. But we're going to do a slight swerve on Last Call tonight. We're not going to talk about monster design. As often is the case on Last Call, we're just bringing up stuff that's happening in gaming culture and talking a little bit about it from our experience. And we're not claiming that our experience is the only one, obviously. There's lots of people out there that want to participate and are participating in this hobby and have done so for many, many, many years. People who brag about how many Gen Cons they've gone to. I'm going to go for one. What? Yeah, I only missed 2 or 3. But the predominant number of players do not have that experience. They play locally with their friends, and in the last few years, I think we've seen an unprecedented growth in the audience for this. I said audience. Okay, that's a big topic right there. We didn't think of ourselves as an audience that far back, but more players are coming into this game, and the game is definitely entering the mainstream as far back as, I mean, I'm sure I can think of further back, but like Community, like openly playing D&D on the show. Maybe there was a couple of shows.
The Dungeon Master movie.
Yeah, going back to all that and the original Dungeons and Dragons movie. Mm-hmm. But now it's like, it's not just outliers. Like, it's in the common parlance. So what does that mean? What does that mean when you have something that has essentially been underground for a long while suddenly gets a huge surge in popularity? And new players and new player expectations. I think Matt was kind of alluding to it back on the show. I don't know if he wants to go first or not, but when he said, who has noticed the extent to which players now feel a really large amount of agency in the game itself? Like, they are directing it. The GM is not the sole arbiter of the right and wrongness of things. That's a newer thing, right?
Mm-hmm. That is absolutely a new phenomenon in my experience, for sure. But somebody up here was talking about. You can go ahead while I try and find this comment, but it was pretty fun. Oh, here it is. 1, if you think your DM is wrong, don't point it out. 2, if you think the DM is wrong, they aren't. 3, if you think the DM made a mistake, don't point it out. 4, if you think the DM made a mistake, they didn't.
I think that definitely is one point of view. You know, somebody has to run this damn thing. Right. And if you're going to ask me to do all the bullshit that goes into running it, then the least you can do is not argue with me about every goddamn point I'm making.
And maybe there's a reason why you broke the rules.
Yeah. Well, I think this raises an issue. We're not talking about players and GMs arguing about a rule, because that does happen.
We're not.
We're talking about the idea, perhaps, that the rules are open as much to the interpretation of the players as they are to the GM.
Sure.
Simply from a position of equity.
Well, that's a dangerous position, but yes.
If you get to make things up, then I get to make things up. And that's not traditionally how the game's been played.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's and I think it's popularity to some extent. It's also access to information. Like, I never would have second guessed the DM back in 20, 30 years ago, because I didn't have the internet with an opinion. If I have an opinion about a rule, I absolutely fucking guarantee you I can find a bunch of other people that have that same opinion, and I can use that to validate my argument to my game master. And 20 years ago, you never would have had that.
So, right. Danny, why, as a player, why would you play a game like this?
I want to be surprised. I want to do things that I can't do. Those probably are the two things. I probably can be pretty jaded if I was a negative person, because I think I can see things coming a mile away. Watching movies is not always that much fun, even when they're enjoyable, because I can see where it's going. So in D&D, that's frequently not the case, man. If I played a game with any of you three, I would have an equally awesome time, because you would each find a way to well, I'd just be dead. But
Right.
But he might have a rule.
You would still enjoy it. You would enjoy the shit out of it. But
I would enjoy the shit out of being killed by Jimmy. But I would enjoy the surprise and the ability to say, I pull my sword out. I run into the flaming building.
Would you agree that the reason you play is to have fun?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And I think that over time, the game philosophy, the game design philosophy has evolved. In the beginning, it was rules, right? It was rules for existing in a fantasy world where the game master had all the control. And as players, especially in an old school game, you were just experiencing the danger, and your life was cheap, right? But modern game philosophy, the players are part of the experience. They're there to have fun, and things that diminish the player's fun are not necessarily good for the game. Now, I'm not going to ever say that you have to be soft on your player, but remember that this is a game about shared fun. So the game master has to have fun while they're playing the game. Jimmy, I'm looking at you. Game master has to have fun as well, running the game, telling a great story, and the players shouldn't be invincible, right? They should be challenged, but the players should be having fun too. And you can even see the evolution of the rules, like especially 4th edition. There's a huge leap where suddenly the players had so much more strength and power and resilience, and the things that were sucky in the game, like save or die, motherfucker, save or die, enjoy, that's gone, right? So I think that's where we are today, is that we're in a game that's shared. We're all trying to have fun, and the rules are changing along with it.
What's that term? I keep seeing that term thrown around for the GM. They're not the game master. They're
referee,
alternate player, or something.
What?
Not running
it's going to escape me now. There's this. I wouldn't even call it a movement. I've just seen the term thrown around a couple times where people suggest that the DM, kind of to your point, everybody's here to have fun at the table. So the GM's really just another player, but he knows what's going on. I can't remember what the term was.
Facilitator?
Arbitrator.
It was even more than that. It was like they're an NPC, so they have. Yeah, I don't remember exactly what it was, but it when you said that about everybody's at the table to have fun and have a good time, the playing field's kind of equal and level. I don't necessarily agree with that. Yeah.
In what way?
I'm here to have fun, but I'm also here to entertain the people that are around the table, I suppose. And so,
I always use the term
the playing field's not level. It shouldn't be level.
Right. Well, and it never really catches on with my players, but I like the term judge, because it says it right in one word what my job is. It's my job to render judgments. Now, if the rules clearly spell it out, my job is easy. It's just like the rules say.
Sure.
But if the rules don't have something in it, this is where it becomes open to interpretation. Then somebody has to make the call.
Sure.
And it has to be the dispassionate one, the one that, in a perfect world doesn't have their foot on the gas.
Jimmy,
like, I'm not trying to.
I do.
But there's another big part of this conversation too, which is we live in a world now where it is somewhat more difficult to navigate, because we are not always sure that appropriating someone else's culture or using it is going to be cool with anybody who might want to use it. If I'm going to write a story about Native Americans in the far north, I would think carefully about how I would go about that these days. I wouldn't just write it out of my head. Maybe I'd try to find someone who can help me write it so that it's not just accidentally or stupidly insensitive, right?
You got to be really into it.
Oh, God, I knew it. I knew it was coming. So all I'm saying is I may have players from that culture at my table. It's not my job to anticipate everything that might irritate someone or be objectionable to them, but I think there's nothing wrong with understanding that I'm not really an expert, and just because I write it down doesn't make me one. And that's something I think that is happening as the game expands too. People are bringing those cultures very openly to the game. So now it's up to us to decide, like, how do we react to that? Or whether we just don't. We just say, hey, everybody's equal. We're not bringing that into this space. And I don't know how well that translates to a lot of people in this hobby. Everybody talks about being cool about it, but I'm not sure people actually do much.
Well, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Getting here because I like to turn the tables, or I play the devil's advocate some, because with this, and Frank is talking about and bouncing, the players are telling their story, and I get this side of the coin that the players are in the story, they're doing their thing, but I want to tell a story, and I want to see how my players react to it. It's not your story; it's my story. Sometimes, and I'm throwing it, and I will many times change the physics of the game.
Hey, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Can you write a novel without any characters?
Can I write a novel without any characters?
Can you write a novel without any characters?
Certainly not. Certainly not. But I don't agree that the characters I don't agree that I have to most of them letting the characters interact with the environment that I'm bringing to the table. And I'm letting them see where they go, but I'm not worried all the time that the character's story has to be told. It's the world itself be told. I'm not saying this correctly.
No, I get it.
But
you are setting the scene. You are telling the story,
yeah.
And it's the characters reacting to your story.
And I want to know that life F's you all the time, and what you expect's going to happen is not going to happen all the time. Okay, and you're going to get gut punched sometimes, and that reaction's what I'm looking for. How do you handle that deal? Sorry. So
sure. I think if we can put that in kind of two camps, early D&D and the gaming, I think that we kind of all grew up in. You were happy when your character survived and made it to the end of the adventure. Now you expect that your character is going to get to tell their entire story, right?
Have we ever met anybody like that? Have we ever met anybody like that? I've met a lot of new players. I've met a lot of women. I've met a lot of LGBTQ folks. I've met a lot of people from various racial and ethnic backgrounds. I've never heard this complaint said to me. Now, there's the argument that people don't talk about it, but never. I've never really had that brought to me that I expected to live through this.
No. I don't think that it's a demand. I don't think that people are demanding that their characters survive. I think the expectation is that I will get to play this campaign out with the story. My story's co-opting with the DM story. I should be expecting. You see it all the time with Pathfinder in particular, that you'll build. I'll do my entire 1 to 20 build because I expect that character is going to survive.
Zombie apocalypse. How many of us always survive? Everyone that you're in this story, I'll survive. I'm going to be that person that survives. There's nobody, everybody else will die. And you play a game, we're going to survive.
I actually have a close friend who says she's just going to curl up and give up right away, which I think is actually considering her a bold choice. Yeah, I agree. I guess I feel like that. I have reasons to think that Pathfinder, the type of gamer that Pathfinder attracts, is specifically that way too, because I think, like in D&D, I try to say that the player is going to get to play this whole scenario. The character, there's no guarantees. So my players never have an issue with having a backup character. I ask them for one right at the beginning. So that I can work it in as soon as they die. They don't have to sit out for 3 games or something. So I don't know if as more people come into this game, I think a lot of them do adapt to the hobby. They're not trying to all change it. I think a lot of people join it as they find it.
Yeah, and again, I don't think anybody has the intent. I don't think anybody comes into this hobby, new or old, saying, I am going to change this because this needs to be changed. I think that they come into it with their worldview and aren't either they don't understand the history behind. I mean, I don't know. It's neither. I don't mean to imply a negative spin on it. I'm just saying that I think that the expectation today is that this character is going to get to tell their story through 1 through 20 levels or 1 through 10 level, however long the campaign lasts. It's not like it used to be where, holy shit, I survived. My thief gained a level, and I get to go on to fight another day.
Just tell Brian his story, and he'll tell you whether he lives or dies.
So on the topic of mainstreaming, then.
Yeah, we totally didn't even cover that. We got way off.
What are the? No. I think we're pretty solid. But where did this new influx of players come from? What are the traditions? I think this is important to understand. You know, if I knew that a lot of people were coming from video games, I would know what kind of games might interest them in terms of content. Not that I would change the rules for them, but I might choose different types of content or different ways of running. So where are they coming from? Where's this new? So I hear this number 40 million, which I think is bullshit. But let's say it's 20 million or 10 even. Where do they come from, and what do you think they want?
Social media.
Brian, you haven't talked in a while.
Me?
Where are they coming from, Brian?
My cat here, who's helping out. So I go to conventions a lot. I think we've covered that, right? Like,
Yeah.
Annie's absolutely right. Tendrils and pop culture. So you've got social media. You've also got today, you've got all these people who've grown up on D&D and the various flavors of D&D, right? So they are interjecting what they love. That D&D is being shown in TV. It's being shown in cartoons, sometimes subversely, and you don't even realize it, right? Like, I think there's a cartoon called Adventure Time that my son used to love.
Oh yeah.
And there was like an evil Lich King. There was a spider goddess whom we all know as Loaf, right? So clearly, D&D has influenced people our age who are now writing content, writing entertainment, media, and today's pop culture is the things that we are producing. So it's just a no-brainer that suddenly D&D is in everyone's brain. I was at this convention, and this little kid who was probably 8 and his mom roll up to my booth. And mom was kind of looking, and you could see the nostalgia in her eyes. And she was like, "Hey, this is what your grandfather used to play," which killed me inside a little bit. But she's like, "Your grandpa used to play D&D." And the little boy doesn't even miss a beat. He's like, "Duh, Mom, everybody plays D&D." And I'm like, I gained that hit point back that I just lost, But there it is, like it's so ingrained in today's pop culture society. It is part of pop culture.
Yeah.
I have a short, two anecdotes from last week. Both of them happened to me last week, which was really eye-opening, I guess, to the mainstreamification of role-playing games. But I was at the gym a week ago Tuesday, and
did you Insta it?
I didn't Insta it. In fact, you'll never find a picture of me doing anything at the gym because yuck. And these two dudes, he's like, "Hey man, hey bro, I'm not gonna be here Thursday. I got a D&D game. I had to move my workout." I'm like, "Whoa, what did you just say?" "Yeah, I'm really excited about playing some D&D." Like, I'm at the. Is this the gym? Where the hell am I? And that was super cool in and of itself. That was the first time I think in my entire life I've heard a conversation idle like that particularly at the gym.
He played a school board.
So this is better. So then I get to, I think it's probably Thursday or Friday, later on in the week, doesn't matter. I'm at the grocery store and I'm getting some stuff at the deli counter, and there's these two guys working behind the counter, and they're describing, I hear him, I usually tune that stuff out, but I hear him describing a beholder to one of their female coworkers. Yeah, it's a ball, it's an orb, like got an eye, stalk, tentacle, so I'm like, well, that is freaking cool. And then so she wanders off, and I'm still standing there, and they start talking about general D&D stuff, and the guy's like, oh yeah, illithids are this thing with tentacles. Oh no, that's not an illithid. It's not illithid. What is that called? And I'm back there behind the counter. I've been looking for a second at what I'm going to get, and I'm like, mind flayer. He's like, yeah, mind flayer. And this guy goes, I've never been double taked on D&D before in my life. And he's like,
can't play
oh, mind flayer. Yeah, that's it. Oh, and I swear, I mean, I would never admit to getting tearful about it, but it was like my heart's. What is that Grinch thing? And my heart's
grew three sizes that day.
Yeah. Because it was awesome. I mean, I've never in my entire life experienced anything like that. And it was twice in 1 week.
Yeah, I think one of when we talk about this generational change too, this mainstreaming that's happening now, I think there's a greater acceptance now too of the rule of cool. Like, I don't know who came up with that. I don't know if that was Mercer or somebody preceding him, but back when I played D&D, not being a mechanic, not really caring that much about the rules per se, I was doing a lot of those things where I'm just going to make a judgment. I'm going to throw something cool at you, whatever. So when it finally came around now, and like that's in many ways the predominant form of play. And if it's not predominant, it's at least a viable alternative. Like you can argue with your GM, come on, man, you know, I've worked really hard. Can't I just like unlock this door, you know? And it'd be cool if I did.
Did you read my backstory?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So
writing about it.
It's strict adherence to rules, and the rule of cool is kind of a newer accepted thing, but also the idea that I think mainstream, the newer players are much more attached to the idea of bringing their story with them. Rather than
I wholeheartedly agree. Yep.
The old school idea, which is what you do after your first die roll, that's your story.
So that is the story.
I want to throw one thing out against the fence right now. Okay, 20 years ago or 30 years ago, what was the I want to say population, but it was mostly men that were playing D&D, right?
White
demographics. Yep.
The demographic today, there is as many, if not more. I see a ton of female gamers playing D&D, just gobbling it up like wholesale, okay? 20 years from now, when they are in positions where they are creating media, where they are writing TV shows, when they are doing all these things, how is that going to impact pop culture's landscape? We think it's good now. It's going to be fucking amazing in 20 years.
Right. And the experiences that are possible, like we were talking about 3D printing in the break.
Yeah.
The ability Matt could sit down, write an adventure on one weekend, and during the intervening week, print out the 20 orcs he needs, including the battle commander with his 2 flails. He can create a brand new experience. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of these, as this game goes more mainstream and more voices enter the arena, you're going to see people who want that. There are going to be people who want to play with terrain because it's just cool to touch things. Right. I mean, if you want to get all scientific about it, there are people that can handle remote stuff and that really well. But some people are really kinesthetic. They need to roll dice. Right. They want to touch minis. They want to, And the game I play on Saturday night is with a lot of old school friends. We roll dice at our own location. I don't know what they're rolling. I just trust them to roll honestly, And I asked them the other night, I said, would you prefer not to do this? Because I got a dice rolling app we can use. No, everyone was like, half the point of playing this game is rolling these dice.
Right.
That, I think, is something that mainstream new players also really share. Dice sell like crack.
Absolutely.
Dice sell like crack.
Yeah,
My-
I was gonna say, ask this guy over here with the. I mean, that's your biggest seller at any convention, isn't it?
really is. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
My wife shared this great anecdote with me the other day. She goes, "Hey, I was one of these pages I belong to for D&D crafts and stuff." She said somebody posted in there that one of their players was using a dice roller app and not actually rolling dice. Should we kick them out of the group? That was a real question.
Remember the
Yeah.
Dragon Bone?
Yeah.
The thing you could dial up and down for your D20 and then roll it randomly. We had the same argument with a guy who wanted to use one of those. He's like, listen, I bought the damn thing. Can I use it? And we're all like, I don't know, man. It's not a die. We don't know what kind of chip is in there.
Mm-hmm.
Good show,
Well,
gents.
Yeah, I guess the only thing we should say in closing is that it's without question the fact that the hobby is expanding. There's lots of new faces and new voices. Be welcoming to them. Look for an excuse to say yes. Look for an excuse to ask someone to come play at your table. I am often blown away by noobs. I am often blown away by people who just show up with enthusiasm and not much knowledge of the rules. Looking stuff up for them can be a little frustrating sometimes, but at the same time, they're going to present some novel solutions that aren't in any book. And that is what gives GMs a lot of pleasure, I think, is seeing people come up with cool ideas. So let's bring them on. Let's bring them into this hobby and treat them with respect. Try to see things from their point of view and have a good time. We are the Wizards of the Couch. This has been Last Call. You can catch us the first and third of every month right here on twitch.tv/Wizards of the Couch. We're all over social media. Just type in Wizards Couch or Wizards of the Couch or Wizco Games into your browser. You'll find where we are online. And one last quick shout out to Wolfgang Bauer and the folks over at Cobalt Press. His Kickstarter is running right now. Check it out over on Kickstarter.com. Search for Cobalt Press or Toma Beast 2 to see what the fine people there are doing. And that is what, Brian?
You might be the gatekeeper today, but you will be the minority tomorrow.
Yes. Don't fuck people over. That's the golden rule right there. So have a good one, everybody. And we'll see you in a couple weeks.